Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual. And obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 90 of the show. And obviously, it's a special episode because it is a real talk episode. And for anybody that's new here, I'll give you the quick rundown of what Real Talk is. So Real Talk is a little mini series that I like doing throughout the show where I pull back the curtain and I give my opinion and really share a lot of the insight that I have in regards to topics that are affecting people on an everyday basis. Like some of the old Real Talks I did were over mental health and suicide. Some of them were over relationships, which was my most popular, and many other topics, like talking about my personal life and things like that. And it's more of these episodes that are more pulled back where I open up with a lot of what's on my mind about these topics and, my own personal beliefs and even applying them and sharing with you what the Bible has to say about these things as well. And really, we haven't done a Real Talk since November 20th. That was the last time we did a Real Talk, which that episode was the relationships one. And many things have changed since then. So I just want to do a little bit of house cleaning before we go into this episode because I know that this episode is something that's very sensitive. I know that it affects a lot of people in many ways. And it's definitely impacted me, and that's why I'm ready to share what's been on my mind because this isn't just something that I've learned in the past, couple months. These are lessons that I've learned over the course of many years. And I think it's time that I share, But side note, so let's do a little bit of house cleaning. So obviously, thank you guys for your continued support and listening to the show, sharing the episodes, and coming back and listening. It really means a lot to me. Again, thank you to my Patreon backers for supporting me. It really means a lot. In terms of stuff that's going on with me, I got a new job. For anybody that knows, I received the CA position for one of the dorms here on campus. So if a CA is a community advisor, which is somebody that runs the floor basically. So I would be in charge of an entire floor of guys. And I'm really excited. Not only because of the benefits, but mainly because, like I've stated before, is that it's a way for me to help people. It's a way for me to get to know people and, help them understand where they're coming from and what is the best way that I can serve them, Like, I always view it that way as like, how can I serve you? How can I help? And this is a great opportunity for me to do that and help people and get to know them. And, it would be incredible, and I'm excited for this opportunity. I've been praying about this for a long time. I waited a very long time because the application stuff was very stressful and I hadn't heard back from them in a while. And then it just, popped out of nowhere. But aside from that, today's episode is over heartbreak. And I know that this is something that affects a lot of people in many ways. This is not something that can just, one day you're fine and then, you can just get over overnight, Heartbreak is such a terrible thing. It's a terrible feeling that I don't wish upon anybody because it shakes your very foundation of who you are as a person. It makes you ask questions that you normally wouldn't ask. And in reality, it causes confusion. It causes, more hurt. It amplifies feelings of self-hate or, that you don't value your life. And it just amplifies those feelings to another level because you've been hurt. You've been heartbroken. And heartbreak can happen because of many reasons, whether it be relationships, a breakup, or people that are married, a divorce, or say the loss of a family member, loss of a friend. Many things can cause heartbreak. And I'm here to tell you all that heartbreak is not a natural thing. Rather, it's outside of the natural order of things. And it spawns from the root of, especially and based on my beliefs, that because we sinned against God and we caused this brokenness to enter the world, this was a side effect of that brokenness, that poor decision that we made because we broke God's heart. That God, in all his mercy, loved us so much. And even after he loves us so much, we continue to make poor choices, make poor decisions, and break his heart. And this is a side effect of a much bigger issue. And that's why we consider it to be outside of the natural order of things, because it's not this is not something that should exist, but it does. So how do we deal with it? This is where things become very tricky, because people deal with heartbreak in different ways. There's, and being honest, because we can be objective and fair here, there are healthy ways and there are unhealthy ways of dealing with heartbreak. But it's focusing on the root of everything, which is your heart. And this is something that a lot of people don't seem to realize, is that your heart and your mind are connected. Basically, the way to think about it is, even the Bible talks about it as well, where it talks about your heart. And this comes from the book of Proverbs. And if you guys don't know, the book of Proverbs was written by Solomon, which is considered one of the wisest men to ever live, except Jesus, because he's God. But this is what Solomon said when he was writing the book of Proverbs. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Another version of that, as I pull it up, because there's another way of how it goes, where it says, keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. What does that mean? In this passage, Solomon is talking about, specifically on this proverb, because that's what the book of Proverbs is, a book of wisdom. It talks about the heart as the root of the wellspring of life, that it is the center of everything. It's your heart. You need to protect it. And I know a lot of older people, they always like going to this Bible verse because they always tell young people when they're dating, guard your heart, guard your heart, don't do anything dumb. But there's some truth in it when they say that, because your heart is such an important thing, because if your heart's out of order, everything else goes out of order. Notice how later in the Bible it talks about, the words that come out of your mouth are a reflection of what's inside your heart. What comes out of your mouth is what's in your heart. Your thoughts lead to your feelings. Your feelings lead to your behavior. And your heart and your mind are connected. So if one of them's out of order, all of them will be out of order. And it causes so many issues, because heartbreak is such a nasty thing, because it fills people's heads with lies. It makes them feel not good enough. It makes them feel like they weren't adequate in some ways. And it makes them think that, maybe nobody was ever going to love me. And it fills your head with so much crap. And how do I know that? Because I went down that route. When I got my heart broken, in terms of relationships, it screwed with me so bad. It made me question so many things about myself that I never questioned before. It made me do things that I probably shouldn't have done. It led to many poor decision makings. It led to me overlooking so many red flags. And in the end, I got burned. And I was the one left ruined. And I know, from personal experience, as a brother of mine, he's not really my brother, but I call him a brother, that he's going through heartbreak right now. And the exact same symptoms. I've seen the exact same symptoms with other friends when they go through heartbreak. They start questioning things. They start asking, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? And you start to ask these questions and you're trying to get these answers. And the reality is you might never get these answers. That these are things that they don't make sense. And I say that because people don't make sense. People suck. That's just the reality. We all suck as human beings. We do. Like, we are selfish. Human nature is selfish. By definition, it is. Like, we're not going to stand here and pretend human nature is very selfish. It is. And love is the opposite of it. And we look at that and it's like, we're naturally very selfish. I'd say that we live in a society where we want instant gratification, that we want things the way that we want them, that we want it now. And yet we do anything we can to get it, even if it means compromising in areas that we shouldn't compromise in. We make decisions that we shouldn't make, but it feels good, right? It's these compromises and it's these cutting these corners that aren't helping us at all. The reality is that dating is a fairly new concept. Dating is something that's only been around for about 120-ish years. It's literally been around as long as we've been driving cars and flying planes, and we're not getting better at this. There's a reason why when you look at, how marriages and relationships were successful back in the old times, well, I'd say old times really like a couple 50-ish years ago, marriages and relationships were more sustainable than they are nowadays. The divorce rate is sky high. There's so many kids that grow up in broken families with parents that weren't ready for that responsibility. And that's why I always say that marriage is a blessing. It's something that is a blessing that not everyone deserves, because there's some people that abuse it. There's some people that take advantage of what that means because they always like, oh, I didn't realize that's what comes with it. And it's like, no, you signed the dotted line. You knew what you were getting yourself into. You can't pull that. In a relationship, I would say you can't even pull that. You can't pull that crap in a relationship at all. Whether it be dating or marriage, you can't pull that. You know what you're getting yourself into when you decided to be with this person. Now, yes, granted, relationships are a much different thing, because if we believe that relationships are the stepping stone for marriage and that it's more of an audition, or really it's more of you interviewing somebody to see if they are a suitable candidate that you would want to marry this person, you need to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. That you're not just skipping over some things just because, oh, they look great, or we get along really well, we got great chemistry. Oh, but they got a lot of family problems. They don't make the wisest decisions, whether it be financially or, emotionally, spiritually. They don't make the right decisions for their health. And you skip over these red flags and you get burned. And that's what makes it hard, because humans, we long for that type of relationship where we want to share these feelings with somebody, these intimate feelings that are real. And sometimes you're not going to get somebody that's going to, give you what you're giving them, that it's always the biggest misconception that people always believe that you can fall in love with somebody. But rather, that's one of the biggest lies you can ever tell somebody. You don't fall in love with somebody. Because if you fall in love with somebody, that means you can fall out of love with somebody. And that's not what love is. Love is not a feeling. Love is a choice. You choose to love somebody. Why do you think at every wedding, they always say this Bible verse? And it's 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. I'm pulling it up now. And This is what it says. 1 Corinthians. Let me pull it up for you guys, because if you've been to a wedding, you have an idea what this is. But for anybody that doesn't, I'll just, give you a little bit of a reminder. So, this is what it describes love as. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not envy. It is not boast. It is not proud. It is not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts. Always hopes. Always preserves. Love never fails. It's something that, man, it's something that when you realize it, notice the words that it's using to describe love. Those are not feelings. Those are actions. It uses it as words of action, not feelings. It didn't say love is joyful. It didn't use words that describe emotions. It didn't even use emotion at all. It's purely action-based. That's why you cannot say love is a feeling when it's always described as an action. Love is a choice. You choose to love somebody because you're choosing to die to yourself and put the needs of others before yourself, or in this case, your partner's needs before you, and they would do the same thing for you. It is something that people don't seem to realize, is that we are selfish by nature. Love is not selfish. Love is the opposite. Love is selfless. And it bothers me that we live in a society that always likes to, I'd say the easiest way to put it is they always like to put the priority on crap. That we live in a society that treats that things like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette are love. That's not love. If that was love, then why does every single relationship on those shows end in divorce? And they don't lead into healthy, sustainable relationships, and only one has. Isn't that jarring? And it's a show that a lot of people consider the standard for love. How funny is that? It's something that a lot of people don't realize, and that it hurts a lot. Because when your heart is broken, it affects everything about you. And it's something that I've said multiple times in multiple discussions I've had with people, and specifically in regards to me. It's these lessons that help you grow as a person. My mom, she always told me this saying that, it's in Spanish, but translating in English. The way she told me, this was advice that my grandfather gave to her, and then she gave to me when I was dealing with the stuff with my ex. She told me, son, you need to learn to take the hits. When you learn to take those hits, or specifically, learning to take those hits are what's going to make you stronger. But you need to take the hits because they hurt a lot. But you need to learn to take them. And it's something that it stuck with me. It stuck in my mind because they hurt a lot, especially on an emotional level, bro. Because when your heart is broken, it's one of the most agonizing pains you could imagine. That it just causes so much grief, so much issues, and it's just hard, It is not easy. Nobody ever said this thing would be easy. Relationships, we're not getting better at these. We're not. There's people, that have been longing for a healthy, sustainable relationship, and they can't find it. And I think it just doesn't help either way that we have such a bad stigma towards dating and towards marriage when it's something beautiful, that people just view dating as, oh, it's just another run of the mill. It's like it's like changing underwear, you know? It's just easy to, pop on one pair and then pop on another. And it's not. That's not how relationships are, because that causes issues. That's why I always tell people that casual dating is such a terrible thing, that it's a plague, because you're wasting people's time. That's what casual dating is wasting people's time. That's one of the most disrespectful things you can ever do to anybody, is waste their time. Because you can't give that back. You can't. There's a difference between wasting their money, because money can be paid back. Time, you can't give that back. And I know it's hard because, I'm speaking from the experience of somebody who's single. When your heart's broken, it makes you wish that you had a partner, because once you finally learn to cope with it and understand that, look, maybe focusing on relationships wasn't the priority. Because that's what I did. I always treated relationships as a priority, and specifically dating relationships. That doesn't mean I've dated many people. No, I've only dated 3 people in my life. My longest partner was my ex, that we dated for 1 year and 3 months. And it stung, because it hurt so much. And I was at a point where I just felt that nobody would ever love me. That, man, if I couldn't make this work, what makes me think that anybody would, That it feels like, man, I let the right person go, they were the best thing that happened to me. And then as I look back, it's like, why did I say that? And the answer is simple, is because my heart was hurting. I was heartbroken. I said things that I shouldn't have said. I did things I shouldn't have done. And it's something that, if you're not careful, depending on the person, you could be taken advantage of. Because I know many people that have been taken advantage of because of their heart being broken. And some of those decisions they can't take back. And that's why I say to people that are heartbroken right now, I know how it feels. I've had my heart broken multiple times, because, my first time definitely wasn't my relationship. It was the most recent. But growing up, I definitely have had my heart broken multiple times. Whether it be with the passing of my aunt, the passing of my grandma, the passing of my brother, the passing of my sister. Each one of those situations broke me. When my aunt passed away when I was 11, 12, it's kind of hard because there's kind of disputes about that. But I went into a 3-year depression. I was depressed for 3 years and nobody ever knew. And I just hated myself every single day. I cried every single night. I just hated myself so much. I just wish it all was over. I always kept telling myself, why do people like me get to live, but people like my aunt don't? Why do scum like me get to keep breathing, but good people like her have to go, It didn't help that when my grandma passed away, I was at a point where I was feeling like I was starting to get out of that depression. And then when my grandma passed away at midnight, 12:30 on January 1st of 2015, it broke me. It sent me back down that rabbit hole, and it sent me even further down that hole. And it didn't help that, I spent time in a room, that I had to stay in a room in Costa Rica for that summer. And it was hard. And it wasn't easy. It broke me emotionally. It broke me mentally. But in the end, I walked out stronger, because I walked out learning some valuable lessons. When my brother passed away, I learned another valuable lesson, even though it stung so much, because my brother literally lived 2 minutes from me. And I didn't make enough time to go see him. Fast forward to a little bit, going into my senior year of 2017. June 2017, my sister passed away. The last words that my sister told me, one of the last words she even said to begin with, was, where's Joshua? As I carried her into the car, as I took her to the hospital, and after that she was, she couldn't really communicate with us anymore. And my heart was broken because that was somebody who loved me so much that even when I didn't love them and when I broke their heart, they always loved me. That was such a hard lesson to learn, that I learned from those lessons. I took what I needed to take from those lessons and I learned. I grew. And it's still not easy, None of this is easy. I'm not saying that heartbreak is just something you can get over like in a month or 2 months, dude. Especially in terms of relationships. And those relationships, whether it be a family members or a partner, you're going to care about those people for the rest of your life. It's natural. Don't beat yourself up because you think it's bad that you have these, that you can't stop thinking about them, or that's not bad. It's natural. Don't feel bad about it. It's natural. But I will say this for people that, with exes, that you're having thoughts about your exes, don't go knocking on that door. Don't act on those thoughts. Don't act on your feelings because your feelings are not guided right now. You're not going to make the best decision if you go down that rabbit hole and knock on that door, That door was closed for a reason. Don't go knocking on it anymore. It's nailed shut. It's a new, you get what I mean? I would say that God closed that door for a reason, Because there was something there that if you kept going further, it wouldn't have ended out the way you wanted to, And sometimes it's hard to hear because it was hard for me to hear because I was stubborn. I kept knocking at that door. I kept trying to I tried to make things make sense. I tried to, get answers for my questions. Why did you do this? Why did you say this? Why did you do this? You promised me this. You promised me that. And the reality is that, dude, people change their minds on a dime. People are unpredictable. People are not linear. You cannot expect people to be linear because they're not. People are not straightforward. That doesn't exist. People are unpredictable. They will do anything. And that's just something that I had to be okay with and learn. It's one of those life lessons that's very hard, Because as people, we, you get what I mean, as people, we want answers. We want the answers. And sometimes there is no answer. And that sucks. And it makes us confused. Or realistically, it makes you even more confused than what you already are now. And it doesn't help. For me, it was something that one of my mentors told me that I had to learn because it was such important. Bro, let me tell you, this is what my mentor, when he told me, he's like, bro, let me tell you something. Are you content with your life? Are you happy with what you have right now? Because I'm telling you this right now, if you cannot be content when it's just you and God, how are you going to be content when you have a partner? That stuck with me because it put me on blast. It's so true, though. How can you, if you're not content with what you have right now, how can you be content when you have more? It's impossible. You can't, because you're not grateful for what you have right now. And for me, I would say there was a verse that came to mind that talks about this, that, trying to see if I can find it, that it talks about this feeling, and let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm trying to see if I can find it for you because I know I had it, but yes, there it is. This is Proverbs 4:12 through 13. specifically, or no, Philippians 4:13. You know, the one that everyone says, "I can do all things through Him who gives me strength." You know, here's the rest of it that a lot of people seem to forget, which is the context to why that was said. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Fill that in with whatever you want. Whether I have a relationship, whether I have a healthy marriage, whether I have my dream job, whether I have my dream car, you know, I can do all things, or specifically in my version, I can do all this through Him who gives me strength. Learning to be content is the secret to getting over heartbreak. And it's specifically, who are you content with? Who are you placing in the center of your life? That's the question you have to ask yourself in situations like these, because if you're trying to put your partner in that place, you're setting yourself up to fail, and you're also setting up your partner in a position that they are not able to fulfill. That you're putting them in a position that almost like a savior-like or a Christ-like figure when they can't do that because they have their own problems that they're dealing with. They have things that they're figuring out, and now you're putting even more pressure on top of them. You get what I mean? How that's very dangerous, how it's unhealthy. And the reality is that, as I even learned this too, relationships, and I've even said this in the relationships episode, that nowadays people are treating dating relationships as if they were marriages. And that's why when you have a heartbreak or you go through a breakup, it feels like a divorce, you know? And it hurts so much. But the reality is that dating relationships should be more friendships. Why do you think they always say that you basically are dating your best friend? You know? The person that knows you the best is the person that you are marrying because they're your best friend. Because they're going to stick with you no matter what. You know, that goes full circle in the whole idea of love being an act, or love being a choice rather than it being a feeling. Because you're choosing to love that person. You're choosing to sacrifice for that person. That you would give up everything so that that person would be happy. And even for the people that are single, because it's something that a lot of people don't seem to realize, is that the Bible talks about both singleness and marriage. It doesn't talk about dating because, you know, as we established, dating is a very new concept. But it talks about singleness and it talks about marriage. And it says that they're both blessings. And that's weird, you know, because it's like, wait, how is singleness a blessing? You know? And this is something that I actually didn't know. And that's why I'm going to share it with y'all, because I didn't know this. It was something that I barely learned. And it's in 1 Corinthians 7, where it talks about the principles of marriage, where it says, "Now concerning the matters about which you wrote, it is good for a man to not have sexual relations with a woman. But because of the temptation to sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman her own husband. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal, I'm going to say this wrong, conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer. But then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Now as a concession, not a command, I say this. I wish that all were as I myself am, but each has his own gift from God, one of one kind and one of another. To the unmarried and the widows, I say that it is good for them to remain single, as I am. But if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion." And it even talks about, because this is from the Apostle Paul, and continuing into it because it's very fascinating. and I'll break this down more as we continue to go through. To the married, I give this charge, not I, but the Lord. The wife should not separate from her husband, but if she does, she should remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband, and the husband should not divorce his wife. To the rest, I say, I, not the Lord. And this is him clarifying like his opinion, that this is his opinion, and the other one was what God says. To the rest I say, I, not the Lord, that if any brother has a wife who is an unbeliever, and she consents to live with him, she should not divorce her. If any woman has a husband who is an unbeliever, and he consents to live with her, she should not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is made holy because of his wife, and the unbelieving wife is made holy because of her husband. Otherwise, your children would be unclean. But as it is, they are holy. But if the unbelieving partner separates, let it be so. In such cases, the brother or sister is not enslaved. God has called you to peace. For how do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? As it continues to go on, it keeps going. And it says, as it keeps going, I want you to be free of anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about worldly things, how to please his wife, and his interests are divided. And the unmarried man, or betrothed woman, is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, how to please her husband. I say this to you for your own benefit, not to lay any restraint upon you, but to promote good order and to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord. If anyone thinks that he is not behaving properly towards his betrothed, if his passions are strong, and it has to be, let him do as he wishes. Let them marry. It is no sin. But whoever is firmly established in his heart, being under no necessity, but having the desire under control, and has determined this in his heart, to keep her as his betrothed, he will do well. So then, he who marries his betrothed does well, and he who refrains from marriage will do even better. This is the Apostle Paul talking about how it's better to be single. And I know a lot of people are like, wait, what? Like, I thought the whole point of when you get your heart broken, you get over it and then you find someone else. Well, no. Because maybe there's some people that maybe it's not the wisest of decisions, And now, granted, I'm not going to stand here and say like, hey, you shouldn't date. But I will say this for high school students. I highly recommend if you are in high school, I would not date at all. I would not do that. It is not the wisest of decisions. It really isn't. It just doesn't work. Because I always say that if we have established that dating is a stepping stone for marriage, unless if you're planning to get married in the next 12 months, don't date. Because you're only going to hurt that person. And that's not fair, And to those that are heartbroken, and you're asking questions like, hey, is it wise for me to be friends with my ex? I would rebuttal and say, why would you want to be friends with the person that broke your heart? Why would you go that way? You know that this person has hurt you. You know they broke your heart. And given circumstances, because like I said, everybody's circumstances are different. Nobody's circumstances are the exact same. But my question would be, why would you go back to somebody who hurt you? Like, it doesn't make much sense, right? And that's the point. It shouldn't make sense. You're not supposed to do that because it doesn't work. I'm not saying that, maybe in giving rough estimate, probably like 2, 3, 5 years, they change. They become a better person. Not exactly perfect, but they become a better person. That decision is on you. I can't tell you that because that's the same thing people told me. Who knows? Maybe my ex changes and becomes a better person, maybe she comes around. That choice is on me. People can't tell me what to do in that part because that's my choice. But I always apply what my friend Edgar told me, where he's like, bro, let me tell you this. You need to learn to live with the consequences of your actions, whether they be good or bad. If you can't live with them, don't make those decisions. If you can, go right ahead. But learn to live with the consequences of your actions. And if you know it's wrong, don't do it. Something that I found very interesting was, that saying that that a lot of people use where it's like, sow a thought, reap an action. Let's add on to it. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. What you do now is going to impact you for the rest of your life. How you handle this heartbreak is what's going to define you going forward. These are seasons in your life that you will go through. There are seasons for a reason. That means they're not permanent. That means you can bounce back. That means you can push forward, and you are not condemned. For anybody that was in a dating relationship, that they made decisions that they shouldn't have made, and now their heart is broken, I need you to realize that you are not damaged goods. You are not unworthy to be loved. You are not defined by your poor decisions. And specifically for the people that are believers that are in that position, just because you made a bad decision doesn't mean that a godly guy or a godly girl is going to look at you in any other way but the way that Christ looks at you. Because the way Christ looks at you is with eyes of grace, with mercy, with love, because he loved you. You learn how to love from the one that loved you first. Why do you think they always say John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life? That while we were separated from God, he loved you. That it's so mind-boggling to think about it that way, That the God of the universe, who is perfect, who knows no wrong, who is the judge, jury, and executioner, loved you and was merciful enough that even though we deserve death, he paid the price for you and me and for everybody else on this planet. That when we weren't even in the picture, he was thinking about us. And for those that are heartbroken, you are always loved. I know it hurts right now. I know that it's not easy. I know that you're going to feel like nobody understands and you only feel like the best thing you can do is be isolated. And I'm telling you this right now, that is a lie. You are buying a lie. There are people around you that care about you, that love you, truly love you. And they're just waiting for you to say, hey, I'm ready when you are. There's people in your life that care about you so much that they would take the bullet for you. And I'm not saying that your partner, the person that broke your heart, is a bad person. No. But it's learning to forgive. Learning to not have resentment towards that person. And to say, I forgive you. I love this quote that my pastor used, where he's like, kids get angry, but adults get things settled. That's such a very straightforward quote, but very powerful. Holding resentment towards somebody just because they did something to you is not healthy. It's not good. It doesn't help you at all. It only makes things worse. It only causes more issues, and it only grows more toxic behavior that gets carried on to your next relationship, to the next, to the next. What you do now with this current situation of heartbreak is going to impact your relationships in the future. It is going to impact the relationships that you have with your future boyfriend or girlfriend. It's going to impact the relationship you have with your future wife or future husband. It's going to impact the relationship that you have with your parents, whether it be good or bad. It is going to impact every single relationship in your life right now. What you do right now is imperative because it is going to impact every single relationship going forward. And the choice is yours. What you do means so much. This is not a game. Anybody that thinks that's a game is lying. And you have bought a lie. This is no game. This is life. You get one life. That's all you get. Don't waste your time. And that was hard for me to listen to that. That somebody had to look me in the eyes and tell me that. But they told me that because they loved me. Because they cared about me. Because they knew what I was doing was not helping me. They called me out on my bull and corrected me. And I thank them for doing that. There was one thing that my mentors told me that I take to heart very, very personally. If we could spare you from this, we would do it in a heartbeat. We gave you the advice. We were giving you the hints. But you didn't listen. You chose your way, so we let you choose your way. But even after everything, my mentors were merciful. They forgave me. They loved me because they knew I'm going to need somebody there. And they were there. My mother and my father were there for me. They loved me because they chose to sacrifice for me, you know? And I know it sucks right now. Trust me. I'm not talking from experience like, oh yeah, I'm on the other side, No. I'm telling you that I just got the t-shirt and I still haven't come back yet. I'm still figuring some things out. But the beautiful thing is that I'm making progress, that I've acknowledged the lies that I have bought. I've acknowledged the poor decisions that I made. I've accepted the decisions that I made, and I've moved on. I've moved forward, because moving forward is what you do. You get up and you dust yourself off and you move forward. You do not stop for anything. You fall, you get back up. Life is a race. You do not stop running. And for those that are believers, you keep running towards Jesus. You do not stop for anything. You keep running forward. You do not stop. And that's hard for some people because they just feel like they can't keep going forward. But the reality is that you have been given a life for a reason. You have a purpose in your life. There is something that you are supposed to do. It just comes down to, are you going to do it? I have been incredibly blessed in my life. And sometimes I always undersell those blessings. Sometimes I always undersell myself. And maybe you're doing the same thing. So I'm going to share with you what I learned in regards to that. Sometimes things feel like they fall on your lap. But the reality is that you were sowing the seeds for something better years in advance. It all revolves around what you're setting yourself up for. Are you setting yourself up for healthy marriages, healthy relationships? Or are you setting yourself up for heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak? What are you setting yourself up for? Who are you putting at the center of your life? What are you putting at the center of your life? What do you value most above all things? Ask yourselves those questions. Think about it. I know this is a hard topic to talk about, because we don't like getting grilled. We don't like putting ourselves on blast. But the beautiful thing is that there's a God who loves you. There's a God who cares about you. He's crazy about you. And he's merciful towards you. He's not mad at you. He's not sitting there with his arms crossed saying, again, really? But rather he's saying, come and taste and see how good I am. Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Come walk with me, because I want to walk with you. For those that are heartbroken, do not isolate yourself. Plug in. Plug into your, for girls, like your girlfriends or guys, your bros, because they're there for you. They love you. They care about you. They take the bullet for you. And they want to help you. Do the opposite of what everyone else does. Don't wallow in filth. Don't be a dog that goes back to its vomit. Pick yourself up. Dust yourself off. Move forward. Don't look back. Do not focus on the past. Do not go down memory lane because it doesn't help you. That's not loving. You move forward and you get up. Get up. That's what you should do. And I hope that this talk helps some people, I hope that it was able to provide some insight and wisdom in regards to this, because I've learned this lesson very, very hard. And that's why I speak very passionately about it. I hope you guys realize that I'm not a perfect human being. I'm not. I make mistakes. A lot actually. But I know that I am not righteous because of my works. There is no good thing that I could ever do to say that I'm a good person, because nobody is a good person. The definition of good is perfection, and none of us are perfect. The only one who is perfect is God. He is good. He is just. But because of his mercy, we are made righteous because of him, because of his righteousness, because of Christ's righteousness. We are made righteous because of Christ. That the Bible talks about how when our sins were as red as scarlet, he made them as white as snow. The same way as water reflects the face, so does one's life reflect one's heart. Remind yourselves of these things, guys. These aren't just witty, smart things to say. No, these are real things that the God of the universe has shared with you, has put in a book so that you could understand these things, because he loves you. He knows that this stuff would happen. He knows what you're going through. He sees what you're going through. He hears what you're going through. And he loves you. He is with you always to the end of an age. I hope that this helps some people. And that if you guys want to talk about it, you guys can talk to me about it. I would love to sit down and talk with y'all more, to be more personal, to hear your stories, and to understand where you're coming from, Thank you guys for this opportunity to talk to you guys. I love doing these. I love tackling the big questions, And I just say, and I'd rather end with what we started. Guard your heart above all things, for it is the wellspring of life. Guard your hearts. Be smart. Pay attention to what you're paying attention to. If you're running with the wrong people, you probably need to change your playmates. You change your playground and you change your playmates. If you're running with the wrong people, stop running with the wrong people. Go find some healthy people that want to run with you and not hold you down. Those are the people you want to be running with. Make the smart decisions now, because they impact the decisions you'll make in the future. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. What are you going to choose? Life or death? Choice is yours. But that's all I got for you guys. Again, thank you guys for listening. I love you guys so much, and I hope that you know that I say that from the bottom of my heart, that I don't say that just because it sounds nice. No, I say that because I mean it. I care about y'all. And I can tell that you guys care about me because you constantly keep supporting me. You constantly keep encouraging me. You call me out when I need to be called out. And for that, thank you. It means a lot to me, and I'm humbled that you have given me this privilege to share with you the insight that I have been blessed with. Thank you. It means a lot to me. But that's all I got for tonight. Or for today, really. Thank you guys. It means a lot to me. But that's today's episode, so I guess, this is where we cut, But I'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys. Bye, guys. Have a safe, wonderful weekend. Please be safe. Don't do anything dumb. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.